Welcome, dear viewers. For more exclusive, thrilling stories every week, join our membership. Sit back, relax, and sip your coffee. Enjoy. I did something I wasn't supposed to do. A guy who rented a unit hadn't paid in months, so I cut the lock. I was expecting old furniture, maybe some boxes. But the unit was empty, except for a single, tall, antique mirror leaning against the back wall. It was covered in a dusty sheet. I pulled the sheet off. The mirror didn't show my reflection. It showed the storage unit, but the door was open, and a tall, smiling man was standing in the doorway, waving at me. I turned around. My door was closed and locked. The man in the mirror took a step forward, out of the reflection and into the room with me. I'm not in my storage unit anymore. I'm in his. Let me back up and explain how I got here. My name is Tyler Kowalski, and 6 months ago, I was living in Grand Island, working construction and barely making rent. When my girlfriend Jessica left me for her CrossFit trainer, I needed a fresh start. My uncle Danny knew a guy who knew a guy, and somehow I ended up with keys to the Red Bluff storage facility, 20 miles east of Kearney on Highway 30. The facility sits on 40 acres of prairie grass and cracked asphalt. 300 units arranged in perfect rows, like military barracks painted beige and rust red. The office is a double-wide trailer with fake wood paneling and a window unit that sounds like a dying lawnmower. Behind it, there's a small apartment where the night watchman lives. That's me now. The previous watchman, an old-timer named Dale Peterson, left without notice. The owner, Mrs. Havlicek, said Dale just stopped showing up one day. She found his keys on the office counter and his apartment door wide open. His truck was gone, but he'd left behind his clothes, his coffee mug, even his wallet. The police filed a missing person report, but nothing came of it. Mrs. Havlicek is a tough Czech woman in her 70s who owns half the farmland between here and Holdrega. She hired me on the spot, probably because I was desperate enough to take a job nobody else wanted. The pay is decent for what it is, $1,200 a month plus free housing. But there's a catch. There's always a catch. She handed me a manila envelope along with the keys. Rules, she said, her accent thick as corn syrup. You follow them exactly. No questions, no exceptions. Dale thought he was smarter than the rules. She paused, studying my face. You want to end up like Dale? I shook my head, though I wasn't sure what that meant. Good. The rules keep you safe. The rules keep everyone safe. You break them, you're on your own. That was 3 months ago. I've been following those rules religiously, keeping my head down and my mouth shut. The facility runs smooth as clockwork. Tenants come and go during business hours. I do my rounds at night, and everything stays exactly as it should be. Until tonight. Until I cut that lock and found something that shouldn't exist. Now I'm trapped in a mirror world, and I think I finally understand what happened to Dale. The man who stepped out of the mirror looked exactly like me, but wrong. His smile stretched too wide, and his eyes held a hunger that made my stomach clench. He wore my red Bluff storage polo shirt, my faded Levi's, even my worn work boots. But he moved like he was learning how to use my body for the first time. Finally, he said, his voice a perfect copy of mine. I've been waiting so long for someone to break the rules. I stumbled backward, my shoulders hitting the cold metal wall of the storage unit. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. People don't just step out of mirrors. But the concrete floor felt solid beneath my feet, and the fluorescent bulb overhead cast harsh shadows across his face. My face. Who are you? I managed to ask. He laughed, and it sounded like an echo bouncing off the walls. I'm you, Tyler. Or rather, I was you, before I ended up here. He gestured around the unit. This is where they keep the ones who break the rules. The storage unit looked identical to the one I'd just left, but everything felt reversed. The door was on the wrong side. The light switch was where it shouldn't be. Even the rust stains on the walls seemed to mirror the original, but flipped. Dale, I whispered. You're Dale Peterson. Was, he corrected. Dale was the last night watchman. Before that, it was Randy Mueller. Before Randy, it was Kevin Novak. We all made the same mistake you just made. We got curious. My legs felt weak. I slumped against the wall, trying to process what he was telling me. The rules. Mrs. Havlicek said the rules keep everyone safe. They do, but not from what you think. Dale's face twisted into something that might have been sympathy. The rules aren't there to protect the facility from outside threats. They're there to keep what's inside from getting out. He walked to the mirror, which now showed my original storage unit, the one I'd broken into. Through the glass, I could see my flashlight lying on the floor where I'd dropped it. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating the empty space where the mirror had been. Look closer, Dale said. Tell me what you see. I approached the mirror cautiously. The reflection showed the unit exactly as I'd left it, but movement caught my eye. In the shadows beyond the flashlight's beam, something shifted. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, but then I saw it clearly. A figure hunched in the corner, wearing a storage facility uniform. That's Kevin, Dale explained. He's been in Unit 47 for 8 years now. Randy's in Unit 23. There are others too. Dozens of them, scattered throughout the facility. Every night, watchman who broke the rules ends up here, and something else takes their place in the real world. What do you mean, takes their place? The things that live in the mirror world, they need bodies to exist in your reality. When someone breaks the rules, they get pulled through, and the creatures slip out to replace them. They study us, learn to mimic us perfectly, then live our lives. I stared at the reflection, watching the figure in the shadows. It moved like it was in pain, constantly shifting position, never still. How long have you been here? Time works differently here. Feels like months, but it's probably been 3 days since you saw me disappear. Dale's expression darkened. The hunger gets worse the longer you stay. Eventually, you stop being human altogether. There has to be a way out. There is, but it requires following the rules from this side. Dale reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. Mrs. Havlicek gave you a copy, but she didn't tell you the whole truth. The rules work both ways. They keep us in, but they also keep them out. If you know how to use them properly, you can reverse the process. I took the paper with shaking hands. It was identical to the one in my apartment, but the ink looked faded, like it had been copied many times. 8 rules, each one more strange than the last. The mirror you found, Dale continued. It's not supposed to be in Unit 127. Someone moved it there, probably one of the creatures. They're trying to create more crossing points, more ways to bring people over. Why would they do that? Because they're starving. The mirror world is dying, and they need fresh bodies to survive. But they can only replace someone who breaks the rules willingly. That's why the rules exist, to prevent people from making the choice that brings them here. I studied the paper, reading each rule carefully. Some of them made sense now, viewed from this perspective. Others seemed even more cryptic than before. Which rule did you break? I asked. Dale pointed to Rule 3. Never enter a unit that's been abandoned for more than 90 days without permission from Mrs. Havlicek. The mirror's been waiting in that unit for over a year. And Dale? The real Dale? He broke the same rule? We all did. Curiosity killed the cat, Tyler. And now you're the cat. Dale led me out of Unit 127 and into the corridor. The hallway stretched in both directions, identical to the one I knew, but the emergency exit signs glowed a sickly green instead of red. The overhead lights flickered sporadically, casting shifting shadows that seemed to move independently of their sources. "The rules," I said, unfolding the paper. "Walk me through them." "Rule 1, Dale began, his voice echoing strangely in the empty corridor. "Never work alone between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. Always have a partner during these hours." "I always worked alone," I said. "Mrs. Havlicek never mentioned getting a partner." "That's because she doesn't know the real rules. The paper she gave you is a decoy. The creatures wrote it to make sure people would break the real ones." Dale tapped the paper in my hands. "This is the original. The real rules were written by the first watchman, a guy named Otto Zimmerman, back in 1987. We walked past Unit 125. Through the thin metal door, I could hear scratching sounds, like fingernails on concrete. Dale noticed my expression and shook his head. "Don't look. Don't listen. Some of the trapped ones have been here so long they've forgotten they used to be human." Rule 2 made my blood run cold. "If you hear your name called from inside a storage unit, do not respond. It is not a tenant. It is not a person." "Jessica," I whispered. 3 weeks ago, I heard Jessica calling my name from Unit 89. I thought I was losing my mind. "You almost lost more than that. If you'd opened that door, you'd have ended up here a lot sooner." Dale stopped walking and turned to face me. "The creatures test the rules constantly. They're looking for weaknesses, ways to bring more people across." Rule 3 was the one that had doomed me. Never enter a unit that's been abandoned for more than 90 days without permission from Mrs. Havlicek. "How was I supposed to know it had been abandoned that long?" I asked. "The rental records. Unit 127 was rented by a guy named Marcus Chin. Paid for 6 months up front, then vanished. Mrs. Havlicek should have told you to leave it alone." The name sounded familiar. Marcus Chin. I remember that name from the tenant files. But his rent wasn't overdue. The computer showed he was current. Dale's expression darkened. "The creatures can manipulate electronics. They probably altered the records to make you think the unit was available for clearing." We reached the main corridor that ran perpendicular to the rows of units. In the real world, this led to the office and my apartment. Here, it led to a brick wall covered in strange symbols that hurt to look at directly. "Rule 4, Dale continued. "If the office phone rings after midnight, let it ring. Do not answer under any circumstances." I answered it once, about a month ago. The caller asked if we had any units available. When I said yes, they hung up. "You're lucky they hung up. If they'd asked to rent a unit, you'd have been compelled to meet them at the gate. And they're not the kind of tenants you want to see face to face." Rule 5 sent a chill down my spine. "If you see a tenant in the facility after closing time, do not approach them. Return to your apartment and lock the door. Wait until morning." I saw someone last Tuesday. A woman in a red coat, walking between the units around 1 a.m. I started to approach her, but she turned a corner and disappeared. Good instincts. The red coat woman has been trying to get in for years. She's one of the hunters. Hunters? The creatures that live in the spaces between the mirror worlds. They feed on the trapped ones, but they prefer fresh meat. Someone who's just crossed over. Dale's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. They can smell fear, and they're always hungry. We continued walking, our footsteps echoing off the metal walls. The scratching sounds from Unit 125 had stopped, replaced by a low humming that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Rule 6 was practical, but ominous. Check the locks on Units 13, 27, 41, and 58 every hour. If any lock is missing or damaged, evacuate the facility immediately. Those units are all empty, I said. Have been since I started working there. They're not empty. They're sealed. Otto Zimmerman trapped something in each of those units before he disappeared. If those locks fail, everything in the nearer world gets pulled back into reality. What did he trap? The original inhabitants. The things that were here before the facility was built. Mrs. Havlicek's father bought the land cheap in 1985 because nobody else would touch it. Local farmers said it was cursed. They were right. Rule 7 made my skin crawl. If you find a mirror in any storage unit, cover it immediately with a sheet or tarp. Do not look into it. Report it to Mrs. Havlicek at once. The mirror in Unit 127 was already covered when I found it. Dale covered it, but the sheet slipped. Or maybe the creature inside pulled it off. Either way, once you looked into it, the trap was set. We reached Unit 89, where I had heard Jessica's voice. The door was slightly ajar, and a faint light spilled out from inside. Dale grabbed my arm before I could step closer. Rule 8, he said urgently. If you see light coming from under a storage unit door, do not investigate. The units should be dark at all times. What's in there? A feeding chamber. The creatures use them to process the ones who've been here too long. When we lose our humanity completely, they consume what's left. The light flickered and went out. In the sudden darkness, I heard something moving inside the unit, something large and wet, dragging itself across the floor. We need to get to the office, Dale said. There's something there you need to see. Something that might help us get out of here. The office, in the nearer world. Every building in the real world has a reflection here. But the office is special. It's where Otto Zimmerman set up his monitoring station. If we can reach it, we can use his equipment to contact the real world. We hurried down the corridor, past more units that hummed and scratched and whispered. Some of the doors bulged outward, as if something inside was pressing against them. Others had dark stains seeping from beneath them, stains that moved like living things. How many people are trapped here? I asked. Dozens, maybe hundreds. The facility's been operating for almost 40 years. Every night watchman who broke the rules, every tenant who stayed too late, every curious kid who climbed the fence after dark. Dale's voice cracked. They're all here somewhere, in units scattered throughout the mirror world. We reached the end of the corridor. Ahead of us, the office trailer sat exactly where it should be, but something was wrong with it. The windows glowed with that same sickly green light, and the door hung open, revealing darkness beyond. Otto's still in there, Dale said. He's been waiting for someone who might be able to help him finish what he started. Finish what? Destroying the mirror world, breaking the connection between our reality and theirs. Dale looked at me with desperate hope. He's been working on it for 37 years, but he needs someone from the outside, someone who still remembers what it feels like to be human. I stared at the office, weighing my options. I could try to hide in the mirror world, hope that somehow I'd find another way out. Or I could trust Dale and walk into that green-lit darkness, knowing that whatever waited inside might be worse than the creatures hunting us. "What happens if we fail?" I asked. "Then you become like the rest of us, and something else wears your face in the real world forever." I took a deep breath and stepped toward the office door. The green light inside the office pulsed like a heartbeat. As we stepped through the doorway, the temperature dropped 20 degrees. My breath came out in small clouds, and frost began forming on the fake wood paneling. "Otto?" Dale called softly. "We've got a fresh one, still human." A figure emerged from the shadows behind the desk, tall, gaunt, wearing a faded security uniform that had once been navy blue. His hair hung in greasy strands around a face that looked like it had been carved from old leather. When he smiled, his teeth were too sharp. "Tyler Kowalski," he said, his voice like gravel in a cement mixer. "Born in Columbus, moved to Grand Island after high school. Worked for Morrison Construction until your foreman Jerry Svoboda laid you off last spring." He tilted his head. "Jessica Novotny left you for Brandon Kopecki. You've been eating too much gas station pizza and drinking too much Busch Light." "How do you know all that?" "I've been watching you since you started working here. Watching everyone who comes through that gate." Otto moved around the desk, his movements fluid despite his apparent age. "I've been waiting 37 years for someone like you." "Someone like me? Someone desperate enough to break the rules, but strong enough to survive the crossing." Otto gestured to the office around us. "This place exists in both worlds simultaneously. It's the nexus point, the place where the barriers are thinnest." The office looked almost normal, except for the electronic equipment covering every surface. Ancient computer monitors displayed scrolling text in languages I didn't recognize. Cables snaked across the floor, connecting devices that hummed with electrical current. In the corner, a large mirror showed not our reflection, but a bird's-eye view of the entire storage facility. "The Havlicek family has owned this land for 3 generations," Otto continued. "But they didn't build the facility. They built it on top of something that was already here." "What was here?" "A crossing point, a thin spot between realities. The local tribes avoided this area for centuries. They called it the place where shadows dance." Otto pulled out a manila folder thick with yellow documents. "When developers first surveyed the land in 1952, 3 surveyors disappeared. The search team found their equipment scattered across the prairie, but no bodies." Dale moved to one of the monitors, studying the text scrolling across the screen. "Otto's been documenting everything. Every disappearance, every anomaly, every breach in the barrier." "The storage facility was built as a containment system," Otto explained. "The concrete and metal create a grid that channels the crossing energy into specific points. The units act like pressure valves, keeping the mirror world from bleeding through. But people keep disappearing. Because the system is failing, the barriers get weaker every year. The creatures get stronger, more aggressive." Otto's expression darkened. "They've learned to manipulate the rules, to trick people into crossing over." I studied the documents in the folder. Newspaper clippings dating back to the 1950s. Police reports, missing person cases, all connected to the land where the storage facility now stood. "Jeremiah Novak went missing in 1953, I read aloud. "Wait, Novak. That's a local name. Is he related to Kevin Novak?" "Kevin's great uncle. The disappearances follow family lines. The creatures target bloodlines that have crossed over before." Otto pulled out a genealogy chart covered in red ink. "Your girlfriend Jessica is descended from the Novotny family. 3 of her ancestors vanished near this location between 1887 and 1932. My stomach clenched. Are you saying Jessica is in danger? She was, until you crossed over. Now they have what they wanted from her bloodline, the connection to her through you. Dale looked up from the monitor. Otto, we don't have much time. The feeding cycle starts in 2 hours. What's the feeding cycle? Every 3 days, the creatures harvest the ones who've been here longest. They consume their remaining humanity and use it to strengthen the barriers between worlds. Otto moved to another machine, this one covered in switches and dials. It's how they've kept the mirror world stable for so long. And you want to destroy it. I want to collapse the entire mirror world back into our reality, force everything back to where it belongs. Otto's fingers danced across the switches. But it requires a sacrifice. Someone has to stay behind to activate the collapse sequence. Let me guess that someone is me. You're the only one who can do it. You still have ties to the real world. The creatures haven't had time to sever your connection completely. Otto handed me a device that looked like a modified radio. This will send a signal to every mirror in the facility. It'll shatter the barriers and pull everything back into our reality. What happens to the people who are trapped here? They go back to their lives, but they'll remember everything. The trauma, the hunger, the fear. Some of them won't be able to handle it. Dale moved away from the monitors. There's something else, Tyler. Something Otto hasn't told you. Otto's expression hardened. Dale, don't. He has a right to know. Dale turned to me. The device doesn't just collapse the mirror world. It destroys it completely. Everyone inside gets torn apart on a molecular level. That's not true, Otto snapped. The process is instantaneous, painless. You don't know that. You've never tested it. Because I've never had someone strong enough to survive the activation process. Their argument was interrupted by a sound from outside, footsteps on gravel, slow and measured. Through the window, I saw a figure approaching the office. It wore my face, my clothes, but moved with predatory grace. The replacement, Otto whispered. It's coming to check on us. The thing that looked like me stopped at the office door. When it smiled, its teeth were perfect, too perfect. Human teeth don't grow that straight or white. Hello, Tyler, it said in my voice. I've been looking forward to meeting you. Don't respond, Dale hissed. If you acknowledge it, you give it power over you. The creature stepped into the office, and the temperature dropped another 10 degrees. Ice crystals formed on the windows, and the electrical equipment began sparking. I've been living your life for 3 days now, it continued. I called in sick to Mrs. Havlicek, told her you had food poisoning. She believes me, of course. Why wouldn't she? I am you, after all. What do you want? I asked, ignoring Dale's warning. I want you to stop fighting. Accept your place here. Let me live your life in peace. The creature moved closer, and I could see that its eyes were completely black. I've been Tyler Kowalski for 72 hours. I know your memories, your fears, your desires. I know you better than you know yourself. That's not possible. Isn't it? I know you blame yourself for Jessica leaving. I know you think you're worthless, that you'll never amount to anything. The creature's smile widened. I know you've been planning to drive your truck off the Platte River Bridge for months. The words hit me like a physical blow. I'd never told anyone about those thoughts, not even Jessica. But somehow, this thing knew. I can live your life better than you ever could, it continued. I don't have your depression, your self-doubt, your crippling fear of failure. I can be the Tyler Kowalski you always wished you could be. Get away from him, Otto commanded, raising the radio device like a weapon. You can't activate that device, old man. You've been trapped here too long. Your connection to the real world is severed. The creature turned back to me. But Tyler still has a choice. He can accept his fate, or he can watch me destroy everything he ever cared about. What do you mean? I mean, I'll start with Jessica. Then your mother in Columbus. Your sister in Lincoln. Your friends from construction. I'll visit them all wearing your face, and I'll make sure they remember you as a monster. Rage flooded through me. This thing was threatening the people I loved, wearing my face while it did it. Without thinking, I grabbed a heavy wrench from Otto's workbench and swung it at the creature's head. The wrench passed through empty air. The creature laughed, a sound like glass breaking in reverse. You can't hurt me here, Tyler. This is my world now. But I can hurt you. It gestured, and suddenly I was on my knees, agony shooting through every nerve in my body. Pain is just information, and I have so much information to share with you. Stop, Dale pleaded. You're breaking the rules. You can't directly harm someone who hasn't been processed. The rules are changing, the creature replied. We're tired of waiting, tired of playing by Otto's ancient restrictions. It's time for a new order. The pain intensified, and my vision started to blur. Through the haze, I saw Otto frantically adjusting dials on his machine. Sparks flew from the monitors, and the lights flickered. Almost there, Otto muttered. Just need a few more seconds. The creature noticed what he was doing and hissed like an angry cat. You're too late, old man. The barriers are already collapsing, but not the way you planned. The office began to shake. Outside, I could hear the sound of metal tearing, concrete cracking. The mirror world was falling apart, but not because of Otto's machine. What's happening? Dale shouted over the noise. Evolution, the creature replied. We're done hiding in the shadows. Time to show your world what we're really capable of. The shaking stopped abruptly. The silence that followed felt pregnant with menace. Through the office windows, I could see the storage facility transforming. The neat rows of units were twisting, bending like heated metal. Some units stretched upward into towers, while others compressed into perfect cubes. The asphalt beneath them rippled like water. The geometric containment is failing, Otto said, his voice barely steady. They're reshaping the mirror world according to their own design. My replacement stood in the center of the office, arms spread wide, head tilted back in ecstasy. Do you feel it, Tyler? The boundary's dissolving. Soon there won't be two worlds, just one reality under our control. Dale grabbed my shoulder. The device. Can you still activate it? Otto shook his head. The frequency has changed. The mirrors are resonating on a completely different wavelength now. Then we're trapped here forever. Worse. If they succeed in merging the worlds, everyone on Earth becomes potential prey. Otto's fingers flew across his equipment, trying to compensate for the changing frequencies. The creatures won't need to replace people anymore. They'll be able to hunt openly. The creature wearing my face turned to watch Otto work. You still don't understand, do you? This isn't about hunting. It's about survival. Our world is dying, has been dying for centuries. We need a new home. By destroying ours? By improving it. Humans are so limited, so fragile. We can give your species strength, longevity, purpose. The creature's black eyes gleamed. We can make you perfect. Perfect like you. Perfect like you could be. No more pain, no more doubt, no more fear. Just pure existence, guided by logic and necessity. I thought about Jessica, about my mother, about everyone I'd ever cared about. The idea of this thing wearing my face, visiting them, pretending to be me while it slowly replaced their humanity with something cold and logical. It made me sick. "I won't let you do this," I said. "You don't have a choice. The process has already begun." The creature gestured toward the windows. "Look outside. See what we've accomplished in just 3 days." I looked. Through the distorted glass, I could see other figures moving between the twisted units. They all wore familiar faces. Dale's face walking out of one unit. A woman with Jessica's face emerging from another. A man who looked exactly like my father, dead for 5 years, waving at me from across the courtyard. "My God," Dale whispered. "They're not just replacing the watchman. They're replacing everyone who ever had a connection to this place. Everyone who ever loved someone who worked here," the creature corrected. "Family, friends, lovers. We've been building a network for decades, one relationship at a time." "The bloodlines," I said, understanding. "You target families because blood relatives share emotional connections. Emotional connections create psychic pathways. The stronger the love, the easier it is to cross over." The creature smiled with my mouth. "Jessica's been dreaming about you every night since you started working here. She doesn't know it, but she's been calling to you through the mirror world. That's why I heard her voice in Unit 89. She's been trying to warn you. Part of her knows something is wrong, but she can't quite grasp what." The creature moved closer. "We had to accelerate the timeline because of her interference. She's stronger than we anticipated." Otto looked up from his equipment. "Tyler, I need you to listen carefully. The device can still work, but I need to recalibrate it to your specific biorhythm. The creatures are using your emotional connections against you, but those same connections can be used to send a signal back to the real world." "What kind of signal?" "A psychic screen. Every person who has ever loved you will hear it, feel it. It'll wake them up, make them realize something is wrong." "And then what?" "Then they'll come looking for you. And when they cross over, they'll bring the real world with them." The creature hissed. "You're talking about a massive dimensional breach. It could destroy both worlds. Better than letting you parasites take over." Otto's hands moved faster, connecting wires and adjusting dials. "Dale, I need you to hold that frequency steady. Tyler, I need you to focus on everyone you've ever loved. Think about them as hard as you can." "I don't understand." "Love is the strongest force in any universe. It's what allows consciousness to transcend physical barriers. The creatures know this. It's why they use it against us. But it can also be used as a weapon." I closed my eyes and thought about Jessica. The way she laughed at my stupid jokes. The way she'd curl up against me on Sunday mornings, her hair smelling like Vanoa shampoo. The way she'd believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. The device began to hum. The pitch rose steadily, becoming almost musical. "It's working," Otto said. "The signal is building." "Stop," the creature commanded. "You don't know what you're doing." "I know exactly what I'm doing." Otto's voice was filled with grim determination. "I've been preparing for this moment for 37 years. The creature moved toward Otto, but Dale stepped in its way. "You want to stop us? You'll have to go through me first." "Gladly." The creature's form began to shift, becoming less human and more something else. Its limbs elongated, its skin turned gray and scaly, its teeth became fangs. "I've been hungry for so long." Dale didn't flinch. "I've been dead for months, you bastard. What's the worst you can do to me? The creature lunged at Dale, but instead of tearing him apart, it passed right through him. Dale's form flickered like a bad television signal, then solidified again. "Surprise," Dale said with a grin. "I'm not really here. I'm just Tyler's memory of me, brought to life by the nearer world's energy. You can't kill a memory. But I can kill the one who's remembering you." The creature spun toward me, its claws extended. I dodged backward, crashing into Otto's equipment. Sparks flew as several machines toppled over. The humming device skittered across the floor, its frequency fluctuating wildly. "Tyler," Otto shouted. "The device. You have to activate it manually." I dove for the device, but the creature was faster. Its claws raked across my back, sending fire through my nerves. I felt warm blood soaking through my shirt. "You're bleeding," the creature said with satisfaction. "That means you're becoming more real in this world. Soon you'll be solid enough for me to tear apart properly." I grabbed the device and rolled away from another swipe. My fingers found what felt like a trigger mechanism. How do I activate it? "Just press the button and think about home," Otto yelled. "Think about everyone you want to save." The creature loomed over me, its form shifting between human and something monstrous. "If you activate that device, you'll kill everyone you're trying to save. The dimensional breach will consume them all." "He's lying," Dale said. "The creatures feed on fear and doubt. Don't listen to him." "Am I lying, Tyler? Are you willing to risk Jessica's life on the word of a dead man?" I looked at the device in my hands. Such a small thing to hold the fate of two worlds. My thumb hovered over the button. "Choose quickly," the creature said. "The mirror world is almost fully merged with yours. In a few more minutes, the process will be irreversible." Through the office windows, I could see the twisted storage units beginning to solidify. The reality distortions were stabilizing, creating a new kind of world, one where the creatures could hunt openly while wearing familiar faces. I thought about Jessica, about my mother, about everyone I'd ever cared about. I thought about the creature wearing my face, visiting them, slowly replacing their humanity with something cold and logical. I pressed the button. The device erupted in my hands like a miniature star going supernova. White light poured from every circuit, every wire, every connection Otto had spent decades perfecting. The creature wearing my face screamed, not with my voice, but with a sound like tearing metal and breaking glass. "What have you done?" it shrieked, its form flickering between human and something else entirely. I felt the psychic scream tear through me, ripping outward from my chest like a shockwave. It carried with it every memory I had of home, every person I'd ever loved, every moment of genuine human connection I'd experienced. The pain was extraordinary, like having my soul turned inside out and broadcast across dimensions. The office walls began to crack. Not physical cracks, but fractures in reality itself. Through the fissures, I could see glimpses of the real world. The actual storage facility, bathed in ordinary fluorescent light, looking exactly as it should. "Tyler!" Otto's voice came from very far away. "The breach is opening. Hold on." But I couldn't hold on. The device was pulling something out of me, some essential part of what made me human. I felt myself becoming less solid, more like Dale, a memory given form by the mirror world's energy. Through the cracks in reality, I saw Jessica sitting up in bed in her apartment on Stolly Park Road. She was clutching her chest, her face contorted with pain that wasn't her own. The psychic scream had reached her, and she was feeling everything I was feeling. "Tyler?" she whispered to her empty bedroom, Tyler, where are you? The creature that had been wearing my face was dissolving, its borrowed form unable to maintain cohesion as the dimensional barriers collapsed. You've killed us all, it gasped. The merger was the only way to save both worlds. Liar, Dale said, but his voice was fading too. You were never trying to save anything. More cracks appeared in the walls. Through them, I could see other people waking up across Nebraska. My mother in Columbus, bolting upright in her recliner, where she'd fallen asleep watching the late news. My sister Amy in Lincoln, abandoning her textbooks to stare out her dorm window at the night sky. My old construction crew, scattered across Grand Island, all of them suddenly, inexplicably afraid. They were all feeling the psychic scream, and they were all starting to understand that something was terribly wrong. The network is collapsing, Otto said, his equipment sparking and smoking around him. The emotional connections are pulling reality back into alignment. But something else was happening too. The other trapped people, the ones who had been imprisoned in the mirror world for years, were beginning to solidify. Through the office windows, I could see them emerging from their storage units, no longer shadows of their former selves, but fully formed human beings. Kevin Novak stumbled out of Unit 47, blinking in confusion. Randy Muller appeared at the door of Unit 23, looking around as if he'd just woken from a long dream. Dozens of others, people I didn't recognize, were stepping out of units throughout the facility. They're coming home, Dale said, his own form becoming more solid. The psychic scream is calling them back to life. But the creatures weren't giving up without a fight. As the dimensional barriers weakened, they began pouring out of the storage units in their true forms. Things that had never been human, that had only learned to mimic humanity through centuries of observation. They were desperate, hungry, and absolutely furious. The red coat woman appeared in the corridor outside the office. But now I could see what she really was. Her coat wasn't red. It was covered in something that looked like blood, but moved like liquid mercury. Her face was a smooth expanse of skin, with no features except 2 holes where eyes should be. The hunters, Otto said grimly. They're making their final move. More creatures flooded the corridors. Some looked like distorted versions of people I knew. My father, my high school girlfriend, my old boss, Jerry Svoboda. Others were completely alien, things that hurt to look at directly. They're using our memories against us, I realized. Every face we've ever loved, every person we've ever trusted. Don't look at them, Otto warned. They're not real. They're just echoes, reflections of our own fears and desires. But it was hard not to look. The creature wearing my father's face was calling to me, his voice exactly as I remembered it. Tyler, son, come home. Your mother misses you. I miss you. Dad died 5 years ago, I said, but my voice shook with doubt. Did he? Or did he just cross over early? Maybe he's been waiting for you all this time. The psychic scream intensified, and I felt more pieces of myself being torn away. But with each piece that left me, I could feel the real world getting stronger. The cracks in the walls were widening, and through them I could see cars pulling into the storage facility parking lot. Jessica's Honda Accord, my mother's old Buick, a pickup truck I recognized as belonging to my former co-worker Dave Krejci. They were all coming, drawn by the psychic scream, following the emotional connection back to its source. They're crossing over. The creature wearing my father's face said, with satisfaction, "Your plan worked too well, Tyler. Now everyone you love will be trapped here with you." "No," Otto said, adjusting his equipment frantically. "The breach is stabilizing, It's not pulling them in, it's pulling us out. He was right. I could feel it now, a tugging sensation in my chest, as if an invisible rope was trying to drag me back to the real world. The device in my hands was growing lighter, more transparent. Soon, it would fade entirely, its purpose fulfilled. The frequency is reversing, Otto explained. Instead of expanding the mirror world, we're collapsing it. Everything that belongs in our reality is being pulled back. The creatures sensed what was happening and began attacking with renewed desperation. The red-coat woman lunged at me, her mercury blood coat spreading like wings. I dodged, but she caught my shoulder, and where she touched me, my skin began to numb. "You cannot leave," she hissed with a voice like grinding gears. "You have seen too much. You know too much." "I know you're afraid," I said, surprised by the strength in my own voice. "You're afraid of being alone again." The creature recoiled as if I'd struck her. "We are not afraid. We are eternal. We are necessary. You're parasites. You've been feeding off human emotions for so long, you've forgotten how to feel anything real." More creatures surrounded us, but they seemed less solid now, more like smoke and shadows. The psychic scream was disrupting their ability to maintain form in the mirror world. Through the office windows, I could see the storage facility returning to normal. The twisted units were straightening, the warped corridors were resuming their proper angles. The sickly green light was fading, replaced by the harsh white glare of sodium vapor lamps. "It's working," Dale said, his voice filled with wonder. "We're actually going home, but not all of us." Otto was still hunched over his equipment, his form growing more translucent with each passing second. Unlike the rest of us, he wasn't being pulled back to the real world. "Otto," I said, "what's happening to you?" "I've been here too long," he replied without looking up. 37 years. I've forgotten how to be human. The psychic scream can't find me because I don't have any emotional connections left. That's not true. You saved us. You cared enough to save us. Caring isn't the same as loving, and love is what powers the bridge between worlds. Otto's fingers continued their work, fine-tuning the frequency even as his body began to fade. I had a wife once, Sarah. She died in a car accident 3 months after I started working here. I've been trying to bring her back ever since. Otto. Don't pity me, Tyler. I made my choice long ago. I chose to stay here, to fight these things, to wait for someone who could finish what I started. He looked up at me, his eyes already becoming transparent. You're that someone. You and Dale and all the others. You're going home. That's enough. The creatures made one final desperate assault. They poured into the office from every direction, howling with rage and hunger. But they passed through us like smoke, unable to maintain their grip on our souls as we were pulled back toward the real world. I felt the floor disappear beneath my feet. The office dissolved around me, replaced by swirling colors and half-formed shapes. The device in my hands crumbled to dust, its job complete. For a moment, I was suspended between worlds, caught in a space that existed nowhere and everywhere at once. I could see the entire storage facility spread out below me like a blueprint, every unit, every corridor, every hidden corner where the creatures had made their nests. And then I was falling, tumbling through layers of reality, following the psychic scream back to its source. The last thing I heard was Otto's voice, fading but determined. Tell them what you saw. Tell them what's possible when love is stronger than fear. I hit solid ground hard, my knees cracking against concrete. The taste of blood filled my mouth, and pain shot through my ribs. but it was real pain, human pain, and I'd never been so grateful to feel anything in my life. I was lying on the floor of Unit 127, in the real storage facility, in the real world. The mirror was gone, leaving only a clean rectangular space on the concrete wall where it had stood. My flashlight lay beside me, its beam cutting through the darkness. Outside, I could hear car doors slamming, voices calling my name. Jessica's voice, my mother's voice, others I recognized. They had all come, drawn by the psychic scream, following the emotional connection back to where it began. But I wasn't alone in the unit. Dale stood in the doorway, solid and real, staring at his own hands in amazement. Behind him, I could see other figures: Kevin Novak, Randy Muller, all the people who had been trapped in the mirror world. They were all back, all human again, all free. Tyler? Jessica's voice echoed through the facility. Tyler, where are you? I struggled to my feet, my legs shaking. Here, I called back. I'm here. As I walked toward the door, toward the voices of everyone I'd ever loved, I thought about Otto's final words. Love is stronger than fear. It had taken me 37 years to understand what he meant. But now I knew. The mirror world was gone, collapsed back into the dimension where it belonged. The creatures were trapped there, cut off from our reality by the very emotions they had tried to exploit. And we were home, scarred, traumatized, but alive and human and free. The nightmare was over. But the memory of it would stay with me forever. A reminder of how thin the barriers between worlds really are, and how much we depend on each other to keep the darkness at bay. Jessica found me first, rushing into Unit 127 with tears streaming down her face. She collided with me so hard we both nearly fell over, her arms wrapping around me like she was afraid I might disappear again. Tyler, oh God, Tyler, I felt you screaming. She sobbed into my shoulder. I woke up and you were in so much pain, and I knew something terrible was happening. I'm okay, I whispered, though I wasn't sure that was true. My body felt wrong, like I was wearing clothes that didn't quite fit. I'm here. I'm real. I drove here as fast as I could. I didn't even know why. I just had to come. She pulled back to look at my face, her hands touching my cheeks as if to verify I was solid. What happened to you? Where have you been? Before I could answer, my mother appeared in the doorway, her gray hair disheveled, still wearing her nightgown under a hastily thrown-on coat. Tyler? Her voice cracked. Tyler? Is that really you? Mom. I reached out to her, and she rushed forward, joining Jessica in embracing me. How did you get here so fast? I was driving before I even knew I was driving, she said, her voice muffled against my chest. I felt you calling for help. It was like when you were little and you'd have nightmares, except 1,000 times stronger. More people were arriving. I could hear car doors slamming, voices calling out in the parking lot. Through the unit's open door, I saw Dave Krejci jogging toward us, his face pale with concern. Behind him, my sister Amy was running from a taxi, her textbooks scattered across the asphalt where she dropped them. Jesus, Tyler, Dave said when he reached us. I was in the middle of a poker game when I suddenly couldn't breathe. Felt like someone was tearing my heart out. What the hell happened? I don't know how to explain it, I said, which was the truth. How do you tell people you've been trapped in a mirror world, fighting creatures that feed on human emotion? Dale appeared beside me, still looking stunned by his own solidity. Maybe we should get everyone away from the units, he suggested quietly. Just in case. He was right. The mirror world might be gone, but the storage facility still felt wrong somehow. The air tasted metallic, and the shadows seemed deeper than they should be. "Everyone needs to get to the parking lot," I called out. "Now." "Tyler, you're scaring me," Jessica said. "What's going on?" "I'll explain everything, but not here. Please, just trust me." We moved toward the parking lot as a group, with Dale and me herding everyone away from the units. As we walked, I noticed other figures emerging from the shadows: Kevin Novak, Randy Muller, and dozens of others who had been trapped in the mirror world. They looked dazed, uncertain, like people waking from a long dream. Kevin approached us slowly, his movements cautious. "Tyler? Dale? Are we really back?" "We are back," Dale confirmed, "but I think some of us are having trouble adjusting." He was right. Several of the returned people were exhibiting strange behaviors. A woman I didn't recognize was walking in perfectly straight lines, turning at exact right angles like she was following an invisible grid. A man in a faded security uniform was counting under his breath, touching every surface he passed with his fingertips. They've been in the mirror world too long, I realized. They've forgotten how to be human. "What's the mirror world?" Amy asked, reaching us breathless. "Tyler, you look terrible. Are you hurt?" I looked down at myself. My clothes were torn, my arms were covered in scratches, and I could feel dry blood on my back where the creature had clawed me. But the wounds were healing faster than they should have been, leaving only faint scars. "I'm fine," I said, "but we need to get Mrs. Havlicek here. She needs to know what happened." "I already called her," Dale said. "She's on her way." "You called her? How do you even have her number?" "I've been working here for 6 months, Tyler." "Well, Dale has been working here for 6 months. I have his memories." He paused, looking confused. "Actually, I'm not sure if I'm Dale or if I'm Tyler's memory of Dale. The distinction is getting blurry." That was troubling. If Dale was having identity issues, what about the others? What about me? I felt like Tyler Kowalski, but how could I be sure I was really him, and not just a copy created by the psychic scream? "Tyler," Jessica said, studying my face, "your eyes are different." "Different how?" "They're brighter, like there's light behind them." She touched my face again. "And your skin is warmer than normal. Are you sure you're okay?" Before I could answer, headlights swept across the parking lot. Mrs. Havlicek's old Ford pickup rumbled to a stop near the office trailer, and the elderly woman climbed out, moving with surprising agility for her age. "What is this?" she demanded, surveying the crowd of people. "Tyler, what have you done?" "I broke the rules," I said. "I opened Unit 127 and found the mirror." Her expression darkened. "You found what mirror?" "The one that's been waiting there for over a year. The one that belonged to Marcus Chen." "There is no Marcus Chen," Mrs. Havlicek said firmly. "I know every tenant who has ever rented from me. No one by that name has ever signed a lease." Dale and I exchanged glances. "Then who put the mirror in Unit 127? "I did," said a voice from the shadows. We all turned to see a figure approaching from the far end of the parking lot. It was a tall man in a storage facility uniform, but his movements were too smooth, too fluid. As he stepped into the light, I could see that his face was wrong. Features that were almost human, but not quite. Like a photograph that had been slightly out of focus. "Otto," Dale breathed. "But you stayed behind. You sacrificed yourself." "I tried to stay behind," the figure said with Otto's voice. "But the psychic scream pulled me back, along with the rest of you. The problem is, I've been in the mirror world so long that I brought some of it with me. Mrs. Havlicek stepped forward, her expression hardening. You are not Otto Zimmerman. Otto has been dead for 37 years. Dead, yes, but not gone. I've been fighting the creatures for so long that I became something else. Part human, part mirror world, part pure will. The Otto thing smiled sadly. I placed the mirror in Unit 127 because I needed someone to find it. Someone desperate enough to break the rules, but strong enough to survive the crossing. You used me, I said. I saved you, all of you. The creatures were growing stronger, learning to manipulate reality directly. Soon they would have been able to cross over without mirrors, without rules, without any barriers at all. Otto's form flickered slightly. The psychic screen collapsed their power base, sent them back to their dying dimension. But the victory came at a cost. What cost? The barriers between worlds are damaged, weakened. It will take time for them to heal, and until they do, things will bleed through. Memories, emotions, fragments of the mirror world still trying to exist. As if to prove his point, one of the returned people, a middle-aged woman in a nurse's uniform, suddenly doubled over, retching. What came up wasn't vomit, but silvery liquid that moved on its own, pooling on the asphalt, before evaporating into steam. She's purging mirror world residue, Otto explained. It's normal. Unpleasant, but normal. The human body is remarkably good at expelling foreign substances. Will everyone be okay? Jessica asked. Most of them, yes. The ones who weren't trapped for too long will recover completely. But some... Otto gestured to the man who was still counting under his breath. Some may never be fully human again. And what about you? Dale asked. Are you going to fade away now that your job is done? I don't know. I've never been in this situation before. Otto's form solidified slightly. But I think I'm going to try to stay. There's still work to be done here. The storage facility needs a proper guardian, someone who understands both worlds. Mrs. Havlicek stepped closer to him, her eyes narrowing. If you are really Otto Zimmerman, then tell me something only he would know. You were 17 when your father bought this land, Otto said without hesitation. He paid $1,200 for 40 acres that nobody else would touch. You were the one who suggested building the storage facility. You thought it would be a good way to honor the people who had disappeared here. Mrs. Havlicek's expression softened. Otto, my God, what have you become? Something new. Something necessary. He looked around at the crowd of returned people. The mirror world is gone, but the psychic connections remain. These people will need guidance, support, someone who understands what they've been through. And the creatures? I asked. Are they really gone? They're trapped in their dying dimension, yes. But they're not dead. They're patient, and they're coming. Eventually, they'll find another way to cross over. Otto's eyes met mine. When that happens, you'll be ready for them. The psychic screen changed you, Tyler. You're no longer just human. You're something more. I felt a chill run down my spine. What do you mean? You're a bridge between worlds, a guardian. The facility needs you now more than ever. I don't want to be a guardian. I just want to go home. This is your home now. This is where you belong. Otto's form began to fade again. But don't worry. You won't be alone. We'll all be here, watching, waiting, keeping the barriers strong. The crowd of returned people began to disperse, some getting into cars, others walking toward the highway. They moved like sleepwalkers, following some internal compass that was pulling them back to their old lives. Will I see them again? I asked. Some of them, the ones who stay in the area, but most will move on, try to forget what happened here. Otto's voice was growing fainter. That's for the best. The fewer people who know about the mirror world, the safer everyone will be. As the parking lot emptied, I found myself standing with Jessica, my mother, and Dale. The others had gone, leaving us alone with the storage facility and its secrets. So, what happens now? Jessica asked. I looked at the rows of units, at the office trailer, at the apartment where I'd been living for the past 3 months. It felt different now, not threatening, but heavy with responsibility. Now we go back to our lives, I said, but we stay connected. We watch for signs, and if the creatures ever try to come back, we'll be ready, Dale finished. Mrs. Havlicek approached us, her expression thoughtful. Tyler, I have a proposition for you. The facility needs a new manager, someone who understands its true purpose. The pay is better than what I was giving you as night watchman. What about Dale? Dale can be your assistant. Between the two of you, you can keep this place running properly. She paused. And you can make sure nothing like this ever happens again. I looked at Jessica, who nodded encouragingly. It's your choice, Tyler, but I think you already know what you're going to do. She was right. I did know. The storage facility was my responsibility now, like it or not. The mirror world was gone, but the connections it had created remained. And someone needed to guard those connections, to make sure they were never abused again. I'll take the job, I said. Mrs. Havlicek smiled. Good, but this time, you follow the real rules. All of them. No exceptions. What are the real rules? Otto will teach you. He's not going anywhere. As if summoned by his name, Otto's form solidified again, becoming more human-like. The rules are simple, he said. Protect the innocent, guard the barriers, and never, ever let love become a weapon. I nodded, understanding. The nightmare was over. But the real work was just beginning. 2 weeks later, I was learning that managing a storage facility was far more complicated than I'd imagined, especially when that facility sat on a dimensional weak point and had been infiltrated by creatures from another reality. The real rules, as Otto had promised, were different from the ones Mrs. Havlicek had given me. There were 17 of them, written in Otto's careful handwriting on pages that felt older than they should have been. Some made immediate sense. Others seemed designed to prevent situations I couldn't even imagine. Rule 1. Never rent Unit 13, 27, 41, or 58 to anyone, for any reason. These units must remain empty and locked at all times. Rule 2. If a prospective tenant asks specifically about renting one of the sealed units, deny their request and record their information. They are not human. Rule 3. The office phone may ring at any hour. Answer it professionally, but if the caller asks about crossing over or the other side, hang up immediately and unplug the phone for exactly 1 hour. Why 1 hour? I asked Otto as we walked through the facility during my morning rounds. Because that's how long it takes for the psychic echo to fade, he replied. His form was more solid now, almost completely human, though his eyes still held that strange light. The creatures can't maintain a connection to our world for longer than 60 minutes without a physical anchor. We stopped at Unit 23, where Randy Muller had been trapped for months. The door was open, and inside I could see normal storage unit contents. Boxes, furniture, a few old appliances. But the air inside felt thick, charged with residual energy. Randy's doing better, Otto said. He called yesterday. Got a job at the grain elevator in Gibbon. Says he's trying to live normally, but he dreams about the mirror world every night. Do they all dream about it? Most of them. The ones who are trapped longest have the most vivid dreams. Sometimes they're not dreams at all. They're memories bleeding through from the mirror world's collapse. I made a note to check on Randy later. Mrs. Havlicek had given me a list of all the returned people, along with their contact information. It was my job to monitor them, to watch for signs that they were having trouble readjusting to reality. We continued to Unit 47, where Kevin Novak had been imprisoned. This unit was different. The door was closed, but I could hear faint sounds from inside. Scratching, like fingernails on metal. Kevin's having a harder time, Otto said quietly. He was trapped for 8 years. Parts of him are still in the mirror world. What do you mean? Sometimes a person gets split during the crossing. Most of them return complete. But Kevin, pieces of him are still over there, and pieces of that world are still in him. Is he dangerous? Not dangerous, just incomplete. His family is trying to help him, but it's difficult. He doesn't remember how to drive a car, how to use a phone, how to interact with people normally. The scratching sound stopped. Through the thin metal wall, I heard a voice, Kevin's voice, but distorted. Otto, is that you? Are you bringing me home today? Not today, Kevin, Otto replied gently, but soon. We're working on it. I've been waiting so long. The walls keep moving and I can't find the door. The door is where it's always been. You just need to remember how to see it. We moved on, leaving Kevin to his confused waiting. I made another note. I'd need to visit Kevin's family soon, see if there was anything I could do to help. Rule 4, Otto continued as we walked. If you see someone in the facility after closing time, observe them carefully. If they cast a shadow, they're probably human. If they don't, they're definitely not. What if they're human? What if it's just a tenant who stayed too late? Then you follow protocol. Approach cautiously, identify yourself, and escort them off the property. But stay alert. The creatures are excellent mimics, and they've had decades to study human behavior. We reached the end of the row, where Unit 127 sat empty and locked. I'd have the lock replaced with something stronger, a heavy-duty padlock that required 2 keys to open. Dale had 1 key, I had the other. Any unusual activity? Otto asked. Nothing obvious, but sometimes I feel like something's watching me when I walk past. That's normal. The residual energy from the mirror will take months to dissipate completely. Otto studied the unit's door. We should check inside once a week, just to be sure nothing's reforming. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The unit was completely empty now, just concrete walls and a fluorescent light. But the air still felt wrong. Too thick, too warm, like being inside someone's mouth. The mirror left an impression, Otto explained, a psychic footprint. It will fade in time, but until it does, this unit is still slightly connected to the mirror world. Could something come through? Not something large. Maybe a memory, a fragment of consciousness. Nothing that could harm anyone, but enough to make sensitive people uncomfortable. I made a mental note to keep this unit locked and monitored. The last thing I needed was another dimensional breach. We finished the rounds without incident, returning to the office trailer as the morning sun climbed higher. Dale was there, sorting through rental applications and answering the phone with practiced efficiency. Any problems? I asked. 3 calls asking about short-term rentals, one guy wanting to rent Unit 13 specifically, and a woman who hung up when I answered. Dale handed me a stack of pink message slips. The woman called back twice, same thing both times, hung up as soon as she heard my voice. creature testing the boundaries, Otto said. They're trying to establish contact, figure out how much we know about their methods. Should we be worried? Always. But not panicked. The barriers are holding, and they're weak right now. It would take them months to rebuild their strength enough to attempt another crossing. Jessica arrived for lunch, carrying a bag from Runza that smelled like heaven. She'd been coming by every day, partly to check on me and partly because she was fascinated by the storage facility's true purpose. "How are you feeling?" she asked, studying my face. "You look tired." "I'm fine, just adjusting to the new responsibilities." "You're lying. You've been having nightmares again." She was right. Every night, I dreamed about the mirror world. Not the terrifying parts, but the quiet moments. The empty corridors, the green light, the sense of being completely alone. Sometimes I woke up missing it, which disturbed me more than the nightmares themselves. "Otto says it's normal," I said. "Part of the adjustment process. Otto says a lot of things, but he's not the one who has to live with the memories." While we ate, Dale updated me on the day's business. 3 new renters, all of them checking out as legitimate. 2 people asking about long-term storage options. 1 complaint about a broken lock on Unit 89. "I'll handle the lock," I said. "Anything else?" "Mrs. Havlicek called. She wants to meet with you tomorrow morning. Something about expanding the facility." "Expanding?" "She's thinking about adding another building. 50 more units on the north side of the property." Dale's expression was concerned. "I'm not sure that's a good idea." "Why not?" "More units means more potential crossing points. More places for the creatures to hide. More opportunities for people to break the rules." Otto nodded agreement. "The facility's current size is manageable. We can monitor every unit, track every tenant, maintain the barriers effectively. But 50 more units would strain our resources." "Then we'll talk her out of it," I said. "It's not that simple. She's a businesswoman. The facility is profitable, and she wants to expand. We can't tell her about the mirror world, so we'll need another reason to discourage expansion." "We'll think of something." After lunch, Jessica left to go back to her job at the credit union, and Dale went to handle the broken lock. I was alone in the office with Otto, sorting through tenant files and trying to identify anyone who might be a security risk. "Tyler," Otto said suddenly, "we need to talk about your abilities." "What abilities?" "The psychic scream changed you. You're more sensitive now, more aware of dimensional fluctuations. You can feel when something's wrong with the barriers." He was right. Over the past 2 weeks, I'd developed an intuitive sense of the facility's spiritual health. I could walk into a unit and immediately know if it had been contaminated by mirror world energy. I could sense when a tenant was lying about their reasons for renting storage space. "Is that why you chose me? Because you knew I'd developed these abilities?" "I chose you because you were desperate enough to break the rules, but strong enough to survive the consequences. The abilities were an unexpected bonus." "Are they permanent?" "I don't know. The connection between our worlds is unprecedented. You might be changed forever, or the effects might fade as the barriers heal. And if they don't fade, then you'll be uniquely qualified to guard this place. The creatures won't be able to surprise you again." The phone rang. Dale was outside working on Unit 89, so I answered it. "Red Bluff Storage," I said. Silence. Then very quietly, "Tyler? Tyler, is that you?" The voice was Jessica's, but wrong. Too perfectly Jessica, like a recording played back with slightly incorrect pitch. "Who is this?" I asked. "It's me, Tyler. I'm trapped. I'm in the mirror world, and I can't get out. You have to help me. My heart started pounding. Jessica is at work. You're not her. I am her. The other Jessica is a copy, a replacement. The real Jessica is here in Unit 127, waiting for you. Unit 127 is empty. I checked it this morning. Did you? Or did you just look at what you wanted to see? I glanced at Otto, who was shaking his head frantically. Hang up, he mouthed. Don't listen. Please, Tyler. I've been waiting so long. Just come to Unit 127. Look in the mirror. You'll see me there. There is no mirror. There's always a mirror. You just have to know how to look. I hung up the phone and unplugged it from the wall. My hands were shaking. Clever, Otto said. They're using your emotional connections against you, just like before. But the mirror world is gone. You said so yourself. The mirror world is gone, but the creatures aren't. They're trapped in their dying dimension, but they can still reach across the barriers. Phone calls, dreams, hallucinations. These are ways they can touch our reality without physically crossing over. So, what do? You remember that love is stronger than fear. You trust what you know to be true, and you never ever go to Unit 127 alone. I looked out the window at the storage facility. The neat rows of units, the well-maintained grounds, the sense of order and purpose. It looked so normal, so safe, but I knew better now. I knew what lurked in the spaces between reality, waiting for another chance to cross over. The job offer is still open, Otto said quietly. You could walk away. Let someone else handle the responsibility. No, I said. This is my facility now. My responsibility. I won't let what happened to you happen to anyone else. Then we'd better get to work. The creatures are testing our defenses, and they're going to keep testing them until they find a weakness. What kind of weakness? The kind that comes from caring too much. The kind that makes you willing to risk everything for someone you love. I thought about Jessica, about the voice on the phone that had sounded exactly like her. The creatures were right about one thing. I would risk everything for her. But I'd also learned something in the mirror world, something the creatures didn't understand. Love isn't just about sacrifice. It's about choice. And I chose to protect the people I cared about by keeping the barriers strong, by following the rules, by never giving the creatures another chance to use my emotions against me. The phone rang again. I let it ring. I found the first letter slipped under Unit 127's door on a Wednesday morning. The envelope was made of paper that shouldn't exist. Too white, too smooth, like it had been pressed from moonlight. Inside, written in my own handwriting, was a single sentence. The mirror remembers what you've forgotten. I showed it to Otto, who studied it with growing alarm. This isn't from the creatures, he said. This is from you. The other you. What other me? The part of you that stayed behind in the mirror world. Every crossing leaves fragments, pieces of consciousness that get caught between dimensions. Usually they fade, but yours... He held the letter up to the light. Yours is getting stronger. That night, I dreamed I was standing in Unit 127, but it wasn't empty. The mirror had returned, larger than before, and my reflection was writing letters at a desk that existed only in the glass. When I woke, there was ink on my fingers. The second letter appeared the next morning. You can't protect them from what you're becoming. Jessica found the third letter before I did. She was holding it when I arrived at the office, her face pale. Tyler, what is this? I read it over her shoulder. She tastes like vanilla and regret. I remember her dreams. Jessica, you need to leave. Go stay with your parents in Hastings. I'm not leaving you. You don't understand. Something's happening to me. Something's wrong. But she was already backing away, her eyes wide with recognition. Your reflection, she whispered. It's not moving with you. I spun toward the office window. She was right. My reflection in the glass was standing perfectly still, watching me with eyes that held no warmth, no humanity. It smiled with my mouth and raised one hand in a small wave. How long has it been like that? I asked. Since yesterday, maybe longer. Tyler, I think you're still connected to the mirror world. Otto appeared in the doorway, his form flickering between solid and translucent. The psychic scream didn't just collapse the mirror world, he said. It merged parts of it without reality. You're not just a guardian, Tyler. You're a bridge, and bridges work both ways. What does that mean? It means the creatures don't need to cross over anymore. They can work through you. I looked at my hands. They appeared normal, but when I held them up to the light, I could see through them, just barely. How long had I been becoming transparent? How long had I been losing my humanity without realizing it? There's something else, Otto said, the returned people. They're not all accounted for. 7 of them never made it back. They're still in the collapsed mirror world, and they're trying to rebuild it from the inside. Using me as an anchor. Using you as a doorway. The phone rang. Dale answered it, then held the receiver out to me. It's for you. I took the phone, already knowing what I'd hear. My own voice, calling from somewhere that didn't exist. Come home, Tyler. We've been waiting for you. Who is this? We're you. All the versions of you that got left behind. The scared Tyler, the angry Tyler, the Tyler who gave up hope. We're building something beautiful here. Something perfect. The mirror world is gone. The mirror world is wherever we are, and now we're there, and here, and everywhere you go. I hung up the phone and looked at Jessica, at Dale, at Otto. They were all staring at me with a mixture of fear and pity. How long do I have? I asked. I don't know, Otto said. But when you finally cross over completely, you'll take a piece of this world with you. The facility, the town, maybe more. Then I need to make a choice. What choice? I walked to the cabinet where I kept the emergency supplies. Behind the first aid kit and the flashlight batteries, I found what I was looking for. A small silver key that Dale had given me weeks ago. A key to Unit 127. I can stay here and risk taking everyone with me when I cross over, I said. Or I can go back voluntarily and try to contain the damage. Tyler, no, Jessica said. There has to be another way. There is no other way. The bridge is already built. The only question is whether I controlled it, or let it control me. I kissed Jessica goodbye, hugged Dale, and shook Otto's hand. Then I walked out of the office and across the parking lot to Unit 127. The door was already open. Inside, the mirror was waiting, just as I'd known it would be. My reflection stepped forward, extending its hand. "Welcome home," it said. I took its hand and stepped through the glass. The last thing I heard before the mirror world claimed me was Jessica screaming my name. But I was already gone, already becoming something new. Something that could hold the bridge between worlds together through sheer force of will. The facility is safe now. The creatures can't cross over without going through me first, and I'm not letting anyone through. Not ever again.